there's a lot of doing your personal work and working out why you want to do something, shift out of a secure job and take on risky entrepreneurial things, doing your personal work and working out why, what do I really want? Who am I even? Dealing with that issue, what will people think of me? I would just highly recommend is really doing your own personal work, dealing with some of the gremlins and the baggage you've inherited.
Welcome to Push to Be More with me, your host, Matt Edmondson. Now, this is a show that talks about the stuff that makes life work. And to help us do just that, today I am chatting with my very special guest, all the way from the other side of the world, John Faisandier, butchering his surname already, from Tough, Thriving Under Fire, about where he has had to push through, what he does to recharge his batteries and to be, as well as, well, where he sees the future going. Now, the show notes and transcript from our conversation will be available on our website, pushtobemore.com. On our website, you can also sign up for our newsletter, and each week we will email you the links along with the notes from the show automatically. They get sent direct to your inbox, totally free, so make sure you sign up for that. Now, this episode is brought to you by my amazing company, Orion Media, which helps entrepreneurs and business leaders set up and run their own successful podcast. You know what? I have found running my own podcast to be insanely rewarding. It opens doors to amazing people like nothing else I've seen. I've built networks, made friends, had a platform to champion my customers, my team, and my suppliers. And I think just about any entrepreneur or business leader should have a podcast because it's had such a huge impact on my own business. Now, of course, that all sounds great in theory, but in reality, there's a whole host of problems to deal with, from distribution, getting the tech right, getting the strategy right. I mean, the list goes on. You see, I love to talk to people, but I'm genuinely not a fan of all that other stuff, which is part of the reason why we set up Orion Media and built the team, so that they can do it. I get to chat and they get to do the rest, which is brilliant, if I'm honest with you. So if you're wondering if podcasting is a good strategy, a good marketing strategy for your business, do connect with them at orionmedia.com. That's AURION media.com. You will also find a link to them on the podcast website as well, which is pushtobemore.com. But do check them out. So that's today's show sponsor. Let's talk about today's guest, John Faisandier. Now, he is an absolute legend, and you're going to love his story. He's a former Catholic priest turned entrepreneur, trainer, and author. His mission is to help people manage their emotions in the workplace and in life. Now, with over 20 years of experience in this field, he's developed a successful program that's been recognized with training awards and is implemented globally. Now, John's diverse career background, including teaching, counseling, and meditation, informs his work and his passion for storytelling. He is a frequent contributor to industry magazines and professional journals, and he has even authored a book called Thriving Under Fire, Turn Difficult Customers into Business Success. What a great title for a book. John, great to have you on the show, man. How are we doing?
Great. I'm very well. Thank you, Matt. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for joining us from sunny New Zealand. It's morning for you. It's evening for me. We'll see how this works.
We'll talk about midday, shall we? Let's call it midday.
Yeah, that's right. Middle of the day. Now, John, listen, let's start off with my podcast question, because I'm really keen to hear your answer to this question. And so the question goes like this. Because the show is sponsored by Orion Media, the podcast agency, if you did have your own podcast and you could have anybody on as a guest to interview, from past or present, that's had a big influence on your life, whether family member, author, podcaster, who would be on your show and why?
Yeah, well, what a question. Because there are so many people that have influenced me. And but right this minute, I would say our recent former Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern.
Okay.
I watched, she gave her valedictory address to Parliament 2 days ago. And I watched that, and she was such an inspirational person. It was a brilliant speech, acknowledging the thing that she's so authentic, that woman.
Yeah.
So she was just there in the House. She led our country through the pandemic like no other country. So we've had the lowest death rates and morbidity rates from the COVID pandemic than any other developed country by a long shot. And she took all those hard decisions about locking down and doing all sorts of things like that. And so now in the post-pandemic recovery, I guess that's where we are. The vitriol against her in social media has increased hugely.
Yeah.
And so she realized that she's now become a divisive person, in politics. So she resigned, but not because of that. She also was exhausted. I mean, she's had 5 years of, we had this big terror attack in Christchurch where, a lot of people were shot.
Yeah.
There's a volcanic eruption which killed a lot of tourists in White Island. Then she had the pandemic and several other huge big things, let alone running a government. She's done it brilliantly. And instead of hanging on or remaining and being divisive, she's never been involved in divisive politics. She's always wanted people to work together. So she resigned, and plus she's absolutely exhausted. And this young woman, and she said, she had a daughter just in her first year of being the Prime Minister, and said, "I don't want my daughter Neve to be known as a former Prime Minister's daughter. I want to be known as Neve's mother." And to me, this kind of authenticity, to me, is such an important word. And that's why I'd like to have her as a guest on the podcast.
That's really interesting. I'm with you. I would love to talk to Jacinda because at the start of COVID, she was in the press a lot here in the UK because she was doing things so differently in New Zealand. And there was I remember the social media campaign that was going around saying, "Can we have Jacinda as Prime Minister here in the UK, please?" Which tickled me. And I saw in the press today, and not today, was it yesterday that I read that she's now been appointed trustee of Prince William's Earthshot Prize. And so it's interesting to see how she's sort of getting sucked into the royal family side of things. But yeah, a really interesting character.
The royal family. I don't think she's is necessarily interested in the royal family, but she's really interested in the planet and making in climate change. It's been big for her, even though she's not part of the Green Party. She's got a lot of values and hasn't been able to implement a lot of what she wanted.
Yeah,
and the Earthshot will give her a chance to really do that.
Yeah,
and hopefully she doesn't get involved in what are they called? The royal family.
The feud.
The carry on, and she won't. If anything, she'll help resolve it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think maybe she should probably sit down with William and Harry and just go, "Right, chaps, let's have a conversation." But no, I agree. I would very much like to talk to Jacinda. So, Miss Jacinda, if you're listening, both John and I would like you as guests on our podcast. This is your formal invite. Because why not, right? Why not? I know she's a regular to the show. So is Prince William.
Yeah.
So listen, John, let's dig into your story a little bit. And I read in the intro that you were a Catholic priest turned entrepreneur. And one word that I didn't use, which you used to describe yourself when we had a sort of our pre-call, which was a word I'd never heard before, was a psychodramatist. And so you've sort of, already we know there's this fascinating story, because how do you get from being a Catholic priest to a psychodramatist? And I'm curious to dig into that story a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it was quite a time. I've been working and ordained for about 7 or 8 years. When I was working in a parish in Christchurch in New Zealand, and actually I'd been teaching already for 5 years, and didn't like the constraints of a secondary school where I was teaching. This is because I've got a deep entrepreneurial spirit, and the idea of being boxed in, and knowing in 7 months' time on Tuesday afternoon at 2:00 exactly where I would be. This is not entrepreneurial. Anyhow, I kind of had a bit of a crisis, a health crisis, which got generated from that. When I went to the superior, the boss of the order, and said, I don't want to teach anymore, he was very upset. Said, all right, I'll send you to Christchurch in a parish, but I know in 6 months you will come back to me and say you don't like that either. He was a bit of a nasty chap. 6 months later, when I was down in Christchurch, it was a bit of winter, and all of a sudden I was living with some old men in this parish, and I went, I need to do something. I do not want to go back to him and say, I'm going to, I don't like this. So I sought a therapist who was actually a priest. That's when I began my journey of self-development, really.
Okay.
And he then went off for the following year to study in another city, put me on to his supervisor, who was a psychiatrist and a psychodramatist. And that just was my transformation personally. Psychodrama is, psyche is the mind, drama is to act out. So instead of just talking about these things, you're able to act them out somehow, or put them out in a concrete form, which is a fantastic way of working for everybody, actually. But for some people like it even more. And when I went to this workshop, one of the first workshops I went to, and they said, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm here to help my parishioners, and I want to help people. And the guy running it actually was a minister from Australia. He was the Uniting Church, and he could see right through me, and said, yeah, fair enough. I realized that I was there for myself, and that got me on a journey of learning, and not only doing my own work, learning how to use this method. It took me about 10 years to qualify. Even in that was a 10-week full-time course that I said I need to do a sabbatical. So I got leave to go to this course in Australia. And that allowed me to free myself up, work out what I really did want. I'm a natural helper of people, and actually I needed to help myself as well as helping other people. So that, and what I learned about myself and all of that kind of stuff then gave me the freedom to leave the priesthood. I didn't have to stay stuck in a place that I was not happy. And then I got I got a job just soon after I qualified, finished. It was very intense learning. Friend came down. She was at a hospital up in the mountains, and said, we're looking for a full-time psychodramatist. Would you come?
Wow.
So I did about nearly 5 years working in that hospital with drug and alcohol rehabilitation.
Wow. Well, look, we'll get into the psychodrama, John, because I'm curious to dig into that a little bit if we can. But I'm also curious to ask, if I can, what was it like for you when you'd made the decision to leave the priesthood? Because that sounds like, to me, I've never been a Catholic priest, so I don't know, but it sounds to me like that was a big deal, right? And I don't want to just brush over that. Was that a big deal for you? Was that a complex decision to make, or was it actually pretty straightforward?
Yeah, and well, in the end, it was straightforward. Just about saying goodbye. I'm off. No, it was very complex because of the social status. Like I came from a working class background. My father worked in the gasworks, shoveling coal. Was one of his jobs, and by the time I'm ordained and I've got several degrees, you have access to anybody's house. People welcome you in, they trust you immediately. There's a huge status involved in it. A lot of my colleagues who've remained, of course, that status has been lowered hugely because of the whole scandals with pedophilia and stuff.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily connected themselves, but it's tainted, whatever. So yes, it was big. But my final year, I was doing full-time study. In fact, this is another big story, but I wasn't the local bishop where I was on contract to, because I belonged to an order. He didn't want me in the diocese, so it meant I could study. But I also was I had joined an improvisational theatre group called Playback Theatre. It's kind of linked. And we used to rehearse every Monday night and tell stories as part of our rehearsal. And so I got to tell my story. Every Wednesday night we had a group where I was learning psychodrama. And so I was able we practiced on one another. So we did our own work. And then every Friday I met one-on-one with my trainer, the psychiatrist. So I was working through my personal issues. I did a year of that. By the end of that year, I felt very clear, and and in that sense, it was easy. But during that year, there were quite a few tears and angst and whatever else. Yeah. So yes, it was. And making that change, I guess, for anybody, whether it's some of the people listening in who might be involved in corporate jobs and who want to be entrepreneurs, there's a lot of doing your personal work and working out why you want to do something, shift out of a secure job and take on risky entrepreneurial thing, doing your personal work and working out why, what do I really want? Who am I even? Dealing with that issue, what will people think of me? If I go off and, become a clown or something, I don't know what set up my clown business.
It's really interesting.
It is. It's not dissimilar to anybody making any change, whether it's even getting into a relationship or getting out of a relationship. What I would just highly recommend is really doing your own personal work and, dealing with some of the gremlins and the baggage you've inherited.
It's fascinating because I imagine, I'm thinking about, your journey from the priesthood to entrepreneurship. I'm thinking about people's journey from full-time employment, say, to being an entrepreneur, because I did that. My wife I think she'd just given birth to our first child when I decided to give up work. You pick your moments.
What were you thinking?
Yeah. And fortunately, it's all worked out. But But I'm kind of curious because I'm assuming, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, that actually for you, you talked about status, but I'm also imagining there was quite a bit of your identity tied up with being a priest, right? So doing the work, is that figuring out and actually what your new identity is going to be?
Yes, absolutely. And for me, it was actually freeing because I remember my first job I got was with the Race Relations Office. I've always been involved in cross-cultural things here. As an 18-year-old, I lived in Tonga for a year. And so and then had done quite a lot of stuff with Maori people. But when I was a priest, I would always be, if it was meal time or something like this at a gathering, I would always be up the front. I would say the grace, and then, you go first, Father John. And then I got this a job at the race relations office, and we had a big gathering like that. And I was now junior staff, and I was at the back of the queue, and I loved that. It was, I don't have to be somebody different. I don't have to. I thought I was reasonably authentic, even as a priest, because I used to say things that annoyed people. Just real, and that was to me a symbol of that change in status. I used to be front of the queue, and now I'm at the very back. And as I say, I enjoyed that, and I was able to enter into it fully and really appreciate what it meant, almost to be a servant, and to serve people. But yes, there was that status, change in status. And I dealt with that during that year. I did a number of dramas actually around that change in status and what I had to let go when I was no longer a priest. Which one of those things was that people trusted me immediately because I was a priest, and would share very deep and personal stories. But what I find now is people do that anyway. Even without a cooler.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting you use the word servant. Now you're at the back of the queue because, what was it Jesus said? If you want to be greatest of all, you've got to be servant to all, or something. So maybe it's quite fascinating, isn't it? That that's what happened after you. Do you miss the priesthood at all?
Do I miss it? I'm just trying to think of something very funny to say, but I miss it like a hole in the head, or I miss it like, I used to bang my head against a brick wall and I've stopped. Oh gosh, I miss that. I think I could bring that again.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So you process this then, the status, the identity through drama, and this has sort of led you down this road to psychodrama. So you mentioned that you worked in a hospital for 5 years doing psychodrama with drug and alcohol patients. What does that look like? I mean, paint that picture for me. I'm kind of curious about that.
Well, in the sessions, people would be in treatment maybe for 3 weeks by the time and so their brains are starting to clear. But this was a residential place, so they closed it because it was too successful. They just put everybody in jail. But and our prison population has gone up since they've closed it. So anyway, that's another story. So these people would come. They'd have their primary therapist where they was seeing every day, and then they'd get to week 3 or so, and the therapist would say, "You need to go to psychodrama and sort out this stuff, about your adoption or about your sexual abuse or about your parents or your whatever." And so I could end up with a group sometimes of 30 people, and we'd have the whole morning, so it'd be about a 4-hour session, and 3 hours, I suppose, and do a number of things that would just get people warmed up to the idea, and then somebody would identify. They say, "I'm really keen to work." Incidentally, this is where I really learned about thriving under fire, because they'd had this dedicated room. It was quite a big room. And when I first went there, around the walls, there were patches, it's kind of like, it looked a bit like they were redecorating. And I was the first full-time psychodramatist. They'd had members of the staff were running this thing at, different times. And I said to the person showing me the room, I said, "Oh, are you redecorating?" And they said, "No. What happens in this room, people get highly, emotional. And this is where they've got angry and punched holes in the wall. And we just plaster over them. but we don't bother to repaint, or we're
Wow.
painting all the time. I kind of went, my training had been fairly intense and deep, but I hadn't quite come across that intensity.
Yeah.
And sure enough, when I started, people, they'd because they'd come out and they'd use lots of expletives. But my therapist has told me I've got to come here. I've got to deal with this shit from my past. I got sexually abused, and I don't even want to look. And then they would just go right off. And some certainly did punch holes in the wall. They'd storm out, slam the door, and say, "I'm not going to do this. I don't care about recovery," And it was in that moment that I had to learn, first of all, how to calm myself down.
Yeah.
And then what do I need to say to them to help them calm down? And that's actually that's the basis of my whole course on thriving under fire. It is, how do you manage yourself in these intense moments, and how do you manage the other person? And because when I left there, I realized that everybody experiences strong emotion. Most people are just not openly dealing with their addictions at the time. And so that's really why I started the business. But often these people, just sort of very briefly to answer your question a bit more directly, people would, if you think of, they can set up the whole scene. They choose people from the group to be other people in their story, their mum, their dad, their abuser even, and they can also set up a healthy thing. And what we're looking to do is that they can have a corrective emotional experience. And that is, as a 4-year-old, that they're powerless, somebody abuses them or hits them or does whatever. Now as an adult, they can experience that scene again, but with a new power, and say, what does that little girl need? What does that little boy need? That little 4-year-old need from you right now? And what can you do? I mean, it's a big process. And often they would end up, they would just say, tell the abuser to go away. I said, well, then they would role reverse with the abuser. And of course they would say, no, I'm not going away. And so they would end up then having a very physical fight. So it's really a body therapy where they then end up, having a fight, and we'd get other people behind so that they could, it was they would feel it, and then they'd say, get out of my life, get out. And there was a lot of shouting and a lot of real strong, and then they would experience that power in their bodies. So for me, as the producer of the drama or the director of the session, I could see that progress that they would be making. What they're doing in the meantime for the rest of the people in the group who are identifying strongly or in different ways with what the drama is, this is kind of helping them relate to their situation, and they're either starting them there, or some, because everybody's at a different stage of their development. For some, they're kind of going, yes, that's me as well. And so some would leave the group sort of all very agitated, but because we were in a residential setting, there would be nurses and all sorts of other people around where they process it. But I used to go out of those sessions or walking on air just about going,
I imagine.
That was so good that person got to that stage. And I could have kept doing it for the rest of my life, just about, because it was such satisfying work.
Yeah, I can imagine. And was there a moment, as you're the producer of these sort of dramas, was there a moment, John, where you saw the switch in the patient, where I'm just kind of curious, was there a tipping point where you just kind of looked at them and went, now you've got it?
Yeah, often there was, yes, and that's the bit. But the struggle, because if it was easy, they would have done it already in their life. Yeah, the thing, and so often, you say, what does that little 4-year-old need? Oh, they need a kick in the ass,
Super helpful comment. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, of course, that's all they've known. That's what they got. That we do what's been modeled to us, And I go, well, go over there and be his dad, And so they would revolt, And then the dad would say, yeah, you'll get a kick in the ass. Oh, I'll give you a bloody kick in the ass, or I'll give you a hiding, whatever it is. And they kind of go, oh. I said, what was that? And then they might even, anyway, there's ways of getting them.
Yeah.
You're wanting to heighten the levels of spontaneity. And the higher the spontaneity, the higher the creativity. And what they have is low levels of spontaneity. So they're not creative. They can't come up with a creative solution. They do the old solution. And spontaneity is defined. It's an essential part of psychodrama. Ability to do something new in an old situation, or to do something adequate in a new situation.
Right.
That's the definition of spontaneity. And so the more spontaneous you can be, the more creative. And as entrepreneurs, see, you're coming up, you think, I want to start a new business, whatever that new thing might be. And even if other people are doing podcasts, for instance, but you want something new about your podcast, and so you've got to, the more spontaneous you can be, the more creative you're going to be about actually running this business in a way that people can kind of hook into it and go, that's much easier doing a podcast with you than it is making my own one, but that can allow me to be creative. But so anyway, that's to me,
that's awesome.
Everything I do is informed by the psychodramatic principles that I've learned. My whole course is that, both when I do face-to-face training, and then about 5 or 6 years ago, I realized that face-to-face training is limited by me. I've trained somebody else up who can run these sessions. She's very good. But I want the world to know how to manage emotions. So I've developed an online program that is really very effective, and I use these principles of the psychodramatic principles of engagement, of developing spontaneity, it's quite a different kind of online experience people have with that.
I can imagine. And do you in the online course? I mean, I'm listening to you talk, and the thing that I'm kind of connecting the dots in my head as you're talking, going, well, psychodrama connects both body and mind, doesn't it? It's not like traditional counselling, which just focuses on your mind. You're connecting the two, which I think is quite powerful, because I'm assuming when you connect the two, you get much better results. Would be my very uneducated opinion on the whole matter. And the other thing that you mentioned, which surprised me a little bit, and I had to sort of check in and go, well, I wonder why I'm surprised here. And that's when you're talking about the grown guy giving a 4-year-old version of himself permission to feel something, or to say something, or to act something. And it, I suppose it's a lack of empathy in some respects on my part, but you're going back to these sort of points in time where they were 4 years old, and it fascinates me that something at that point in time is still having a big impact on them now. And I'm wondering if that's why a lot of the guys would just say, "No, just give yourself a kick in the arse, because you should have got over this by now." But you're sort of giving
a long time ago.
But you seem to be giving people permission to actually experience that and reframe it in a new light, rather than to say get over it. It seems like a more positive way of dealing with it, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a book called "The Body Keeps the Score." But we also know in the brain, in fact, in the emotional brain, everything that has ever happened to you is there. So you, it's not enough to just say, "Oh, forget that," And in fact, this is what often happens as people get older. They can suppress it through say early childhood sexual abuse is a basic case where for men, I think it's something like 34 years is an average time for them to reveal something. It might even be longer because they suppress it because it's so shameful. Even though they're not the ones they're not guilty at all, but there's so much shame involved in it. Nevertheless, it's there. And our unconscious drives so much of our behavior. And the whole process of doing therapy and growth is bringing the unconscious to make it conscious. We had a lovely phrase at the hospital, which I still love, is feeling and revealing leads to healing. And, all of the things that people, the difficulties people get into and these emotional moments that they have come not from what's just happening in front here. So in customer service, for instance, somebody comes and says, this is terrible. You haven't done this properly or it's broken. It does relate in some part to some of the service that may not have been good. But when it's really strong, it's related to things that have happened way back in the past. That's driving this person in the unconscious. And fascinating. I haven't read the book, but the prince, I can't even remember their names, quite frankly. The one who's now in America,
Harry,
he's trying to do something and saying, look, this is what it was like for me when my mum died, and all of these expectations, let alone whatever. And you said, oh yeah, well, if Jacinda gets together with Harry and his brother
William,
I hope I'm not offending too many people in England. These names.
No. I mean, Jacinda might come on your podcast. I don't know if Prince William or Prince Harry will now. Maybe they'll just come onto mine.
What you said was she might get them into a room. And talk. Now, this to me is one of the mistakes people make, and why this tough training is so important, because people don't have the skills. So you can get them into a room, but if they don't have the skills to have these conversations, it ain't going to work. And I had a client recently. He had his warehouse manager said, was turning a bit feral. He'd worked with him for 15 years. First of all, he rang me and said, I think I need to sack this guy. He's causing a lot of trouble. And I go, no, well, hang on, no, wait. You don't need to do that. What's he doing? He's getting highly emotional and shouting at people and doing this kind of stuff. And he said, this is not our business. We don't do this in our business. And it's affecting everybody. I said, okay. And then he said, well, and in particular, there was a young fellow in the warehouse that he was having trouble. He said, I'll get these two in the room. We'll try and work it out. I said, no, don't do that either. What they both need to learn first is the skills to have these conversations. That's what the Thriving Under Fire program teaches us. How can you manage your own emotions? These things that come from back there somewhere without having to do deep therapy. I mean, yes, I recommend everybody does therapy and counseling, but you can learn some skills to manage these moments, manage your own feelings. How do you calm yourself down when somebody, either tells you you're a complete idiot or whatever they might say that gets you going. So how can you do that for yourself first? And then what is it that you can do for the other person to assist them when they are highly emotional? Now, they are simple skills. They do take a bit of practice, but I don't see anybody else learning it. Like a lot of customer service training, people say, smile. When somebody's told you you're an idiot, you don't want to smile at them, or show empathy. Well, what's that? That's whereas here's some very simple steps that you can learn. And one of the things for me, these courses are not long, just a few hours, but it can make a huge difference to your customer service as a business. It can make a huge difference to the way you communicate with others in your business, like your workers and colleagues. And my hidden agenda, which won't be hidden any longer as soon as I tell you, but is to make a difference to what happens between you and the people at home. And that's really where I want to make the biggest influence. I mean, I want people to be successful in business. That's cool, but I want people to have really good relationships at home, marriages or, long term, and with their kids. And I was working recently with these road workers. We've had some cyclones here in New Zealand this summer that have damaged roads. Like we've had
horrendous.
floods, all sorts of things. So now roads are all broken, and there's the orange cones all over everywhere, and stop go signs, that and they've got to wait for 20 minutes, half an hour sometimes before they can go. Motorists get very angry. I was working with these guys who are out there on the front line. There's just a small group of them. They were all Māori men, as it turned out. It was in this area. And I was teaching them how to manage themselves when people drive by and tell them they're idiots and that, abuse them as they drive past, so they can't actually do anything for the other person. But some stop and want to engage and say, the trouble with you, what are you doing? You're useless. These guys, as well as learning that, they said, I was brought up, my father was violent towards me, and I can see this going to happen with me and my kids. This will help me break that cycle of violence.
Fantastic.
And so I can actually now talk to my kids about what they're feeling. I realize how important their feelings are, and I know now how I can talk about those things without losing myself, and managing my own when I get angry and something, something's doing, they're making a lot of noise or whatever, and I don't like it, what I can do. And to me, that is the real power of, and it keeps me going. It's why I've been doing this work.
No, it's interesting.
So
interesting. And everyone's got a driver, haven't they? Everyone's got something which is propelling them forward, and it's interesting listening to your story on that, John. It really is. I've got a question though. Obviously, this is you've been doing this. You're working with some quite vulnerable people. You're working with some quite angry people. You're working with some quite emotional people, some broken people, whatever language you want to use. People like me, probably. Do you know what I mean? But it's
with everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Those kind of things.
Everybody's what you just said.
Yeah. So how do you, in the midst of that, how do you recharge your batteries? How do you keep? Because how do you stop absorbing everybody's emotions? Do you know what I mean? In terms of what you're doing and getting sucked into their story, I'm kind of curious how you do that for yourself.
Yes. The long-term answer to that was the training in psychodrama. You've got to do your own work first. Deal with all of my own demons, because that's the bit where you end up absorbing other people's feelings, is when they somehow connect with your own pathology, if you like to use that word, or your own wounds. And so there's been a lot of healing for that, for me. And so now I don't get so caught up in, like I can be with people, and empathy is a very strong thing, but it does not drain me like it used to. And so some of so it's really learning this. And again, this is what I do teach. You are not your feelings. So I allow my feelings to come and go. I become aware of them, notice them, and non-judgmental about myself. And the more I say, it's not. I also am vulnerable. I've always had somebody as a supervisor or somebody I can go to, and I do process these moments with that person, which also allows me to talk a lot about my business. Just this is what I'm doing, and so that's kind of a counselor kind of person.
Yeah,
finding the right person, and often not expensive to pay, just, but taking an hour or so for myself to do that, because even though I'm very good at it, there are times when I do get hooked. It's true.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So having somebody that I trust that I can talk to.
Mm.
I do read a lot and, look at, focus on good sleep habits, good eating. I've been vegan for about 7 or 8 years, so I don't eat meat and dairy and eggs, which actually just put a whole lot of cholesterol and other crap into your body that we're not meant to. Our bodies are not really meant to eat those things. So I go to the gym regularly, just do appropriate workouts. I'm not a not crazy at the gym, but do things I love. I love skiing, actually. It's sort of like spend all my summer getting ready for winter, getting ready for the winter.
Getting your skis ready.
A week skiing and that's it. I'm good. And with relationships, I do a lot of fun things. Not a lot actually, but when I'm with people, I want to have fun. I think I like to laugh a lot.
Yeah.
And not at the expense of others, but just really good, genuine laughter. So those are things that keep me going.
It's interesting listening to you talk about it, because it's funny. I think as leaders, as entrepreneurs, usually the last person that we look after is ourselves a lot of the time. I mean, I'm not saying all of the time. I think there's some quite selfish entrepreneurs out there, but most of the time.
Yeah.
If my company is doing bad, I'm always the last person to get paid, right? If I'm not always the last person to leave, that would be unfair, but there's always a pecking order, isn't there? And when times are good, you tend not to notice it, but when times are bad, you notice it more. And I think probably loneliness is probably one of the biggest issues that the modern entrepreneur struggles with, really. Leaders, loneliness and dealing with all of that. So I like the fact you're talking about this, and I like the fact you're creating something to help leaders look at themselves, to understand how they feel in a non-judgmental way and deal with that, because that's going to make them better leaders, right?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. And you're right about loneliness, and I mean, even in longevity studies shown that the biggest factor of people living longer is that they have good relationships, and it, so that they don't feel lonely.
Yeah.
And that there are, even if you are alone a lot, and you got to, I have to work a lot on my own. I'm not out there all the time working with people, and but I do make sure I have a few people that we have regular meetings, when, breakfast. I have breakfast with a friend every month, and we have a good talk about our businesses and what's going on. So these things are very important.
Yeah.
And the key to me is when you do meet with people, is that you have good skills so that you can talk about things that are significant and go a bit deeper and be the real you and be authentic and, that kind of thing.
Fantastic.
So,
Fantastic. Well, listen, John, we've got to that stage, because time has rapidly run away from us, where I am now going to flip through the question deck. Dun, dun, dun. I need some music.
Okay.
So when you say stop, that's the question I'm going to choose.
All right. You stop now.
Stop right there. Okay.
Well.
Okay. So perhaps the bizarrest question that has come out of the question deck. I'm just going to write your name on it, John, so I know who I've asked this question to. Is there an art to loading the dishwasher? What's your opinion on this?
Yes. Well, look, I mean, that's not just an idle question. This is one of the questions that in relationships can
it's caused a few fractions in our house, let me tell you.
Of course, my wife loads the dishwasher much better than I do, because she's forever rearranging what I've put in there. So, not just an art to loading it, but I believe there's a science as well. So it's both an art and a science, if I can just extend the question slightly. What I think there is an art in is allowing the other person to rearrange what you've put in without you getting upset. Now, when that does happen, and again, this comes back to my training that I teach, is what do you do when your partner rearranges how you've loaded the dishwasher? And notice what you feel. I have felt murderous at times when she brings things down. Because the other thing about feelings, you don't have to act on them, because that can actually lead to either addictions or prison. Now, but if you name your own feelings to yourself, you don't say it to them. Actually, that's even worse.
Top tip.
Whereas I am really frustrated. I feel humiliated that I couldn't load the dishwasher properly, whatever it might be. But just own that as a feeling. Because all feelings are good, by the way. None are good or bad. They're all tell you something about yourself. And look, we're right here in the middle of a workshop right now, managing it.
I was actually thinking about that's probably a brilliant question to stop on in relation, because it has caused a few fractions in our house. I get I don't know if I felt murderous. But I do smile whenever the dishwasher is rearranged. I think I'm good at the science. I'm not great at the art, and I think art often trumps science in our house. So.
I remember a friend at his father's funeral said he never believed in divorce. Would never ever have divorced mum. He might have killed her a few times, but he would never have divorced her.
Yeah.
I think love that.
Yeah. My wife's probably felt the same, John, if I'm honest with you. Listen, John, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. If people want to reach out, if they want to connect, if they want to find out more about Tough, about thriving under fire, what's the best way to do that?
Probably through my website. It's tough.co.nz. tuf.co.nz or NZ, if there's anybody in America listening, just so you know where we are. NZ. And I've got, on that website, there's quite a number of resources there, and access to my various programs that will make a real difference to you as an entrepreneur. If you can manage your own emotions, and first, and really accept and come to terms with those, and you've got a better chance of managing others. And that's my mission in life, is to make a difference for you.
Fantastic. So that's tough.co.nz or NZ, and you find out more about John there. We will of course link to that in the show notes as well. But John, a genuine pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been absolutely great fun to talk to you.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, Matt. Thank you. You run a good show. You're good. Some good questions.
Oh, bless you.
Lovely. You're a champion. Yeah.
Oh, bless you. I'm going to go and talk to my wife about the dishwasher thing. What a great conversation. Huge thanks again to John for joining me today. Also, a big shout out to today's show sponsor, Orient Media. If you're wondering if podcasting is a good marketing strategy for your business, do connect with us at orientmedia.com. That's AURION media.com. And of course, they will be linked on the pushtobemore.com website. Now, be sure to follow the Push to Be More podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, because we've got some more great conversations lined up, and I don't want you to miss any of them. And in case no one has told you yet today, you are awesome. Created awesome. It's just a burden you've got to bear. John has to bear it. I have to bear it. you've got to bear it as well. Now, Push to Be More is produced by Aurea Media. You can find our entire archive of episodes on your favorite podcast app. The team that makes this show possible is Sadaf Bainon, Estella Robin, and Tanya Hutzelak. Our theme music was written by Josh Edmondson. And as I mentioned, if you would like to read the transcript or the show notes, head to the website pushtobemore.com, where, as I said, you can also sign up for the newsletter. So that's it from me. That's it from John. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.